Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. It is always my favourite time of week. It's Wildcard Wednesday, and it's a little bit like the old school Wildcard Wednesdays, but not as wild because we are discussing some serious-ish matters. But I think we've got to discuss them because we're now getting to the upper echelons of English football. As Newcastle United fans, we need to start planning ahead. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to introduce who I'm with. I'm joined by I think the most knowledgeable man on this podcast, and I think it's Michael. Are you okay, Michael?
Aww.
I'm doing very well. I thought you were going to finish off by saying Nicola and not Michael, but
I love to give Nicola loads of stick. I would never call her a man, ever. Even for me.
Who would want to be a man?
As Michael wonderfully introduced her, we are with the brains of the operation. Nicola, you all right, Nick?
Brains of the operation. Has that ever
You are
gone
the
in
brains
the same?
of all of us. You are the brains. Michael's got the most knowledge in terms of Newcastle, but in terms of making this podcast work, Nicola, you are the heartbeat. You are the engine. You're a Bruno Guimaraes. That's who I'm joined with today. Right, so we've got 3 parts, as always. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that. And if you're not a regular listener, where have you been for the last whole season, right? So stay tuned in. Right, what I want to discuss is Newcastle United, obviously, but we want to become an elite club now, don't we? We want to be up there with personally, I think all Newcastle fans do, not just me, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Liverpools, the Manchester Cities. We want to be regularly up there, and we just got smashed off Villa 4-1. That doesn't happen to them type of clubs very often. So my question to you guys in part 1 is, if Newcastle United are to become an elite club, how do we do it where them results stop happening? So there's loads of ways this can happen. I'm just going to inform the listeners before you guys pick the 3 you would prioritise and the question I'm going to put to you. Clubs do it in different ways. They build new stadiums, they become global brands, they change club culture, they get European pedigree, they become a brand. Like PSG now is pretty much one of the biggest brands in fashion, and they're a football club. Some teams invest heavily in youth, like Barcelona with La Masia had a whole team, didn't they? A whole 11 who won the Champions League pretty much, who came through the academy. And then some teams like Man City and Chelsea before PSR existed to just spend huge and create Galactico teams like Real Madrid. So there's many different ways to become an elite club, I think. However, as Newcastle United fans, I find it very hard to ever think that we'll become like a fashion brand. I just can't see that right now, but no. I could be massively wrong. Little kids in Paris walking around in Newcastle kits, I just can't imagine it, right?
Raji fashion and that.
Exactly. My question to you guys, anyway, before I harp on too long, is if you were in charge of Newcastle United and we were going to listen to you, what 3 things would you prioritise right now, moving forward from this moment, to become an elite club? And when I say elite, I don't mean like top 4 every season. I mean winning Premier Leagues, winning Champions Leagues, dominating European football, which only few English clubs ever have, really. You've got Man United who had a period, but never really dominated European football. Liverpool did. Chelsea, again, even though they've won Champions League, never dominated European football. I'm talking Real Madrid-esque here. So I'm going to go to Michael first. Michael, what 3 things would you prioritise to become a absolutely monstrous club?
Yeah, so I think obviously it is something that's going to happen over time rather than the Man City style, unfortunately. But I think there's a few things that Newcastle will prioritise, and let's be honest, they've probably already looked at it. But the first thing for me is replicating a top 6 rival Spurs in regards to commercial improvements. So what we can see from them is when the Delight Premier League table came out for most money made, etc., that maybe, just maybe, Spurs were making double what Newcastle were. So commercially, so 615 million over Newcastle's 372 million. And that comes from, that worldwide revenue of, it could be one of those of just the new stadium, but let's be honest, the pints cost a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
The food costs a little bit more. There's a lot more tourists there. So it's one of those things where everything we don't want from Newcastle.
Wow, we're going to have to become.
Yeah, we're going to have to become what we hate if we want to make it to the best team in the world. Now, personally, that's to be the best in the world. I'm just happy to compete. Personally,
that was going to be my next question. That's a great point you made there, Michael. Like, do we really want to sell out to the point where we are charging I mean, it's not tenner a pint, but pretty much a tenner a pint in the northeast to become an elite club, or would we just rather calm it down a bit, lads? We'll compete for top 4 every season and win some cups.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have what Spurs have. I mean, not this season, obviously. Although they might win the Europa League.
We could
They
actually.
might win the Europa League. Same with Man United.
Cannot cope with that.
But if we were in Spurs' position, I'd be overwhelmingly happy. As I say, not this season, but it's always up there. They've had some fantastic players: Bale, Son, Harry Kane. Like, stuff that Newcastle
Champions League final. We got to.
Only a few years ago we could only dream of. So replicating Spurs on that front is a must. Second one is replicating Manchester City. Easier said than done. Just overall, actually. So replicating Manchester City's growth in their youth assets. So you'll notice every single transfer window, it feels like Manchester City are selling a youth asset for 20 million, 30 million. You had your Sanchos, your Palmers, your Harwood Bellises, James Trafford, for example, Romeo Lavia, when he went to Southampton. They probably had sell-on clauses in all of them as well. They've sold 51 players who under 21s over the last 10 seasons. The average price of them has been 7.8 million euros per transfer.
Wow.
If you can manage that, Newcastle haven't had 51 youth players that I could name in the last 10 years. Most of them have been, unfortunately, going on to play for Darlington rather than Chelsea, etc. So that's number 2. And then the third is just consistency and making sure you're in touch with the fans. Newcastle United will only grow as a club if the fans are behind it and they stick by it. Because a lot of fans, when they fell out of love with the club under Ashley, they left. And we're going the other way. We've got all the success, but, well, all the success. We've won an EFL Cup and it's getting to be head. But we'll get all the success and, fans will start to go, well, it's not the club I fell in love with. It's a working class club. And it's always going to be that way. It doesn't matter how many prawn sandwiches you put in hospitality. It's always going to be a working man's club. And if Newcastle lose that identity, we're going to be absolutely nothing as a football club.
That's what puts me off the new stadium. And you've just put there in the last 2 or 3 minutes how difficult it is for these owners, because you need the first point you made about the stadium, the events, the hospitality, but then that's not what Newcastle is. It never has been. I don't think it ever will be, in terms of the real true Newcastle fans might walk away if we get to that point. So it's such a fine balancing act on how we become an elite club, because that's where we want to be now. Look, we're looking this season, we've won a cup. We're hopefully going to be in the Champions League again, our second time in 3 years. So we're now trying to move towards that period of doing that successfully. But wow, you've just literally made three good points there, but 2 of them contradicted each other straight away. So it's difficult for the owners, definitely. Nicola, what are your 3? Do you agree with many of Michael's, or do you think we need to go down a different route, or where you're at?
No, well, Michael's obviously better explaining things than I do, so I'm just going to be straight to the point because I don't have stats or anything like that. So no, I agree with pretty much everything that Michael said. That is how you're going to get to an elite standard. But you're not going to like this one, Kev, and I don't think I even like it coming out my mouth. Long-term managerial stability. Is Eddie Howe? Is he an elite manager? Now, we all obviously absolutely love Eddie Howe, and there's no doubt what he has done for the club. He has absolutely resurrected the club from those Ashley Bruce days to what it is now, and it is a feeling like no other. But does Eddie Howe an elite go in the same sentence? Is he the manager to take us to an elite standard of winning constant trophies, Premier League, Champions League? Is he the man to take us that way? Is he as comparable as to someone like Pep, for example?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, what first came into my head was, would I see Eddie Howe managing at Barcelona? But I think my answer is no, because not many English managers ever have. I mean, Bobby Robson did, but obviously Bobby came to us at the end of his career. I don't know. I mean, I would obviously, my heart is instantly saying, well, of course he's an elite manager.
Yeah, of course.
But you're right in terms of Real Madrid. Would Eddie Howe manage at Real Madrid? Would Eddie Howe manage at Barcelona? I don't even want to answer that question, so I'm going to go to Michael. Do you think Eddie is the man, Michael, for the next 5-10 years to do an Alex Ferguson? Is he? Because when Ferguson, I know Ferguson won stuff in Scotland, but it's not the same, is it, when you come to England? But Ferguson created this unbelievable just piece of art with Man United, rebuild after rebuild after rebuild, and becoming the most successful long-term manager ever. Is Eddie capable of that at Newcastle if what we've said about infrastructure, stadiums, fan bases, and all that stuff go along with it? Is he the man, Michael, or not?
Yeah, I think he is. I think it's one of those where to convince everyone at home who's called me an idiot right now, let's say Eddie Howe's illness is something that in his mind he goes, you know what, I can't continue. I need to take a break. Yeah. Who did Newcastle bring in? Jose Mourinho? Nope.
No.
I asked the same question at work and I got told Xavi. He's done a year at Barcelona. Nothing. It's one of those where there isn't really many world-class managers out there at the moment. You got Pep, Carlo Ancelotti, Jurgen Klopp, etc. None of them are coming to Newcastle. No. Let's be honest. So as it stands, Newcastle need that manager who can stay with them, push them forward, exactly as Nick said. And Eddie Howe's the best man for the job.
I agree. I mean, everyone knows
by the way.
I know. It's a good point, because you do think of elite clubs and you think of the iconic managers who go with them clubs who are legends. And Eddie's not there yet, but I think he definitely will be. Well, he's already there in Newcastle fans' hearts because he won a trophy. He 100%. Needs to get there in the general football opinions fans' hearts, I think, for us to really say, yes, he's an elite manager. The thing I wanted to add, I know we're going over, but shock horror to Wildcard Wednesday, of course it's going to go over. I would love, if I could pick a way to do it, a little bit like what Michael said about the youth academy, but like Barcelona, don't sell them, just bring them all in and have a team full of Geordies. I know that's what John Hall wanted, and it was a long time ago and times were different. But imagine if we could develop our academy where we're taking players from London. Like we're taking, obviously not now, but when he was 16 years old, we're taking Cole Palmer's. We're bringing them up here. Like I think Man United took Shola Shoretiri off us. We've lost other players to Liverpool. It's 16, 15 years old, which goes completely under the radar. But I would love to be doing that to other clubs and dragging them up north and they stay with us. And we build like a hotel where all the players stay and they live in the city. You know, I'd love to do it that way personally. However, I think them days are gone. I think it's now being very clever, like Michael said. Can you bring them through? Can you sell them? Can you make a ridiculous amount of profit and go from there? Speaking of profit, we've got PSR to talk about in the second part, but we've went over. My time is a little bit messed up, so I'm going to be miles over, so people just need to shut me up at the right time. So, into part one, we're going to go to our lovely Bioniq advert, or Cristiano Ronaldo's mob, as Ian calls them, and then we'll be back for part two.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right.
It's happened again.
Brilliant stuff. There we go. Did it happen again? Did it go twice?
I think it did.
Oh,
I might be wrong.
I didn't press it again. Either way, Michael comes in at the end near the code GSPN and just says, "It's happened again."
Honestly, give me such a fright. I wasn't expecting it.
Anyway, part two.
Entertainment value, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Part two is kind of inspired a little bit by Michael here, because he mentioned that to become an elite club like Real Madrid, we would need to sell our soul a little bit. So, what does an elite Newcastle United look like? Is an elite Newcastle United a Real Madrid, where you are winning the league every year, a little bit like Man City, 5 times or 4 times in a row? Are we ever going to be that? Personally, I just cannot ever picture that. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I've been watching us play Burton away in the Championship and it just doesn't happen to teams like us. But Man City probably fought like that when they were in the old Division 2 and all that type of stuff. So it could happen to us. Or does an elite Newcastle United look a little bit where we are now, challenging for top 4, hopefully regularly, winning the odd League Cup, hopefully FA Cup, maybe 1 or 2 Premier Leagues coming up in the next 5 years? Is that as good as it gets for Newcastle, or can we literally be dominating Europe? What do we think personally? I find it very hard to ever imagine a world where Newcastle United are as big and as dominant as Real Madrid, but let's see what you guys think. I'll come to you first, Nicola, on this one. What does an elite Newcastle United actually look like? Are we world beaters, world domination, or are we just the odd Premier League, the odd cup, and finishing the top 4 as much as possible?
I don't know the right way to answer this.
As honest as possible.
Shall start on the fence, doesn't you?
I do, yeah. Because I never know the right way to say. Sorry, okay, yeah, I need to before my microphone breaks again. I just never know the right way to say things. I think the question that you have to ask as well is, like, there are different varieties of elite, isn't there? Like, you've got, obviously, I mean, I guess your Real Madrids. What is elite to Newcastle United? I know you've just asked it of, is it where we are now? I wouldn't say we're at elite standard now. I think Newcastle behind the scenes, I'm not even talking about on the pitch here, I'm talking about a lot off the pitch, has a lot of work to do. But I think when it comes, can I see Newcastle United being a world-class club? I'm not too sure I do.
Oh, is there a reason why, or is it just it? I'm trying to take our feelings out of this because I think it might just be because we followed them through the crap times, so it's hard to see. But Man City would have been like that. We've definitely got the owners, haven't we? We've definitely
100%. I'm not taking it away from the owners, the management, the players itself. I genuinely, and I've said this so many times on different podcasts, whether it's been a Wildcard Wednesday or whatnot. I think the business side of football now is setting clubs like Newcastle United, Aston Villa's, even the Forest nowadays, to fail. The rules and the regulations are setting clubs up not to necessarily fail, but you can't then compete with the likes like Manchester City have in the last sort of 7-8 years. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I just can't see a quick fix.
Michael, do you think we can actually be that a club who dominates Europe and steals players from Real Madrid? Can we become that, or is it just not in our DNA?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be the team that steals players from Real Madrid, wins multiple Champions Leagues in a row and stuff like that. But what I do think is that we can be a constant in the top 4. We can qualify for the Champions League consistently, and we can win trophies like the EFL Cup constantly. Like, let's be honest, Arsenal, you would class as them as an elite club, I would guess. Yeah, they had the invincible seasons. They've had a few seasons where they've been absolutely incredible, but right now, well, they're not winning back-to-back Champions Leagues ever. Yeah. So, and they're not really. I mean, they got Martin Odegaard from Sociedad, decent signing. Same with Marino, but they weren't taking players from Real Madrid. So we can be elite without doing that. But I think we're always going to be that team that you expect to finish between 3rd and 5th. Unfortunately, we will be Tottenham. I think we'll be the Tottenham of the North. The only difference will be we actually win trophies.
Yeah, and I hope we don't finish 15th.
That's
we're not hiring Big Arch, it's fine.
Again.
Do you think when we do challenge, I'm saying when here, do you think when we do challenge for a Premier League, it will just be a one-off? Or is our ceiling, like you've used Arsenal as a great example there, Michael. Arsenal are an elite club, but haven't won a league for a long time. We've never won the Champions League, but we're kind of there or thereabouts at the minute. It's an elite club, but can we actually go and challenge for the title every season? Not win it, but can we challenge for it? Or is our ceiling just between 3rd and 5th, like you said?
Yeah, I think we can challenge. It's just going to be one of those where, unfortunately, if you have let's say right now, a Liverpool or a Man City are always going to be that one level above. What you need is a season like this season, like the season Leicester won the league, where both of the 2 elite teams at the time just aren't on form. And then the team that's between 3rd and 5th will have that good chance of winning the league. But as it stands, I don't think we'll ever be favourites to win a league. But we'll always be outsiders. We'll always be underdogs. Just how Newcastle like it.
Okay, so I mean, I think we're not too far off at the minute. Hopefully, we are still quite. We're not putting in Premier League challenges next season, I don't think. But maybe the season after I can start to imagine it and dream. But we're not miles off our ceiling, men, at the minute, which is quite nice to know in a little way, but also a little bit sad because I was hoping to see kids in Madrid wearing Newcastle tops rather than Real Madrid tops. I don't know why.
To be fair, sorry to cut you off there, but the Saudis are in charge, so let's be honest. Anything could happen. I'm just sort of trying. Yeah, I'm just trying to sort of be realistic with my expectations, but realistically, the ceiling is the sky.
Yeah.
We can't touch the ceiling because of who's in charge of the club. We could probably own the Club World Cup in association with the Saudis in a few years, never mind be in it. So, yeah, I think it's one of those. The ceiling is extremely high, but I think for Newcastle fans, we should probably set those expectations of let's try and stay 3rd to 5th for the next 10 years or something before we think about winning a Premier League title.
I agree. I think my expectations are probably similar, but I've got that little bit of dreamer in us at the minute where I think, God, a couple of additions to this squad and we could nick a league, and that's kind of what inspired this whole episode and got me a little bit excited. But it's interesting to know, and I would love to see people comment as much as possible, especially TikTok. By the way, the TikTok comments at the minute
flying.
You guys are
I've had to turn
arguing
off
with us.
notifications.
You're arguing with each other. It's interesting. Let us know what you think. But I'm interested to see.
Unless it's bad about me, then don't.
So none of them then. Well, all of them then, sorry.
Michael! Why do you guys hate me?
Right.
I don't.
Everybody else does. Right, we're going to move on before it gets too far. Right.
We love you, really.
Before we get to the next advert, in part 3, there's a big reason stopping us. Michael said the sky is the limit, and it really is. However, PSR has been a disaster for Newcastle United. However, if you stick around for after Nicola's advert, I've got a theory on why it might be the best thing ever for us. I'll try and convince you, but I'm not holding my breath. Take it away, Nick.
Keeping that off the TikTok.
Absolutely. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Kev, I've really had to try and hold my cool there because last time I'd done that with you on a podcast, I had to laugh for 3 minutes.
You laughed for 3 minutes straight. We can't have that. We're already on 22 minutes or something. Right. Brilliantly done, Nick. Well composed. You did well there. You did well. Right. So like I said, like every Newcastle fan, right, PSR has been up on my wall and I've been throwing darts at it, right? It's impossible to do, but I've hated it that much. However, I've been thinking about this, right? And when you think other clubs are struggling to spend a little bit like we are, because it's now starting to shackle everybody, isn't it? It's now starting to affect almost every club. The transfer window just gone was quiet. The summer was quiet for all clubs, not just Newcastle. So I actually think it might help us. We have one of the best coaches in the league who can get the best out of players and turn a profit. It's not like the days where, let's use Pep as an example. He signed Claudio Bravo for 30 million or something. He had a bad season. He sold him or sacked him off and then brought in Edison for 50, 60 million. And he just thought, I'm not going to coach him, I'm not going to do anything. Now that can't happen. Now you have to invest in the player. You have to give them time. You have to allow them to shine. You have to hopefully get them worth more than what you bought them for so that you can sell them for a profit and be sustainable and then be able to spend again. I genuinely think in terms of our coach, we have the best manager in the league at doing that. Look what he's done to Jacob Murphy, Joe Linton. I'm not going to go through the whole list. Fabian Shaw, blah, blah, blah. We spoke about it loads. I don't think any other manager in this league can take a player for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 million and then make them worth even more like Eddie Howe can. So I actually think long term, as much as the Premier League don't want this, because let's face it, these rules were changed because of our owners. As much as we don't want this, I actually think we have the best manager to get a profit out of almost every player. You can actually coach almost anybody. Pep can't just get rid of his goalkeeper anymore and bring in a £60 million replacement. Man United with Juan Sebastian Veron can't just sign him for ridiculous money and then sell him and bring in somebody new. But that can't happen anymore. You have to invest in that player and give him time to shine to resell him. So that's my theory. I don't know if I hate PSR as much as I used to because I think I might be talking some sense, but Michael looks like he's desperate to tell us I'm not talking sense. So I'm going to go to Michael. I'm probably going to agree with him and I'm going to back down from his whole nonsense. And I think PSR might actually help us because our manager is so good. Go on, Michael.
No, I was just laughing at Juan Sebastian Veron at how far you've had to fling the hook and reel it in.
I just think so many players have signed for big money. Diego Forlan has flopped him, have just replaced him. That can't happen. You have to now coach the player to be better. You can't just sell him for 10 million or 20 million less than what you bought him anymore. So I think that actually helps us. Like if you were to sell Jacob Murphy now, he's going for more than 12 million. If you were to sell Fabian Shaw now, even at 34, he's going for more than 3.5 million. Joe Linton's going for more than 40 because he's an absolute enforcer now. back in the day, before PSR, you would just sell Joe Linton for 10 million, lose 30 million, and buy £80 million striker. But that can't happen anymore. So I think Howe's the best man for the job for that reason.
Yeah, to be honest, as a Newcastle fan, it probably isn't as bad as what we think.
Yeah.
I'm always going to maintain it's bad for the league.
Yeah.
There's a reason that the newly promoted clubs are just getting relegated every
That's a good
season.
point.
The Championship teams can only spend 39 over 3 seasons. Premier League 105, I think it is. 105.
Yep.
So it's one of those where you're looking at it and you're going, right, well, something needs to change because the gulf in quality between the 3 teams coming up and the remaining teams there is massive. And I know Manchester United and Tottenham are examples of how it's been done poorly. Shock, look at their owners. But I think it's also one of those where there's becoming real gaps we're seeing between top quality teams and the poor teams. And I know it's always been there, but it's one of those where realistically, Spurs and Man United, they'll be fine at one point because they're just going to get bailed out by PSR. They'll be able to buy a new stadium, and maybe PSR isn't the problem. Maybe it's like VAR where it's the idiots running it. That's the problem. But at the end of the day, it's not helping anyone really at the moment because Man United can still build a new stadium. Chelsea can just sell a hotel or a women's team for 75,000 times the value.
Villa have done the same, by the way. Villa have done that. Villa have just sold half of 2/3 of a women's team, but Villa have failed the Champions League PSR, but with Champions League PSR failing, it's just a fine. So it doesn't matter. You're not going to, you know what I mean? So it's amazing when you actually look into this in detail. But if I go back to, you're right, Michael, it's not helping anybody, but I actually think I used to think it was shackling us the most because we have such rich owners, but I actually think with Eddie Howe making, like I've mentioned before about making profits off players, I actually think it might shackle us the least. Am I making sense or am I making this up here?
I understand it because Howe's fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's a win if it's there because Howe's as good as what he is, but it's also a win if we don't have it because we can just go, Howe, Killian, come out here, you Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Let's go play some games.
But the problem with that is though, like Chelsea can spend 600 million to $1 billion or whatever, and it still be awful. I think we're lucky where other teams now can't spend. So look at the summer transfer window gone. It was very quiet. Nobody's really strengthening in depth in a lot of players coming in at once where you think, whoa, we've had a hell of a window. That doesn't happen anymore. And I think that actually helps us because Howe's getting what he's getting out of Murphy. I actually think it shackles us the least now. And I know this is going to be unpopular, especially with my dad. My dad is going to scream at this episode and turn it off in disgust. But I used to be like that. I used to hate it. But I actually now think it helps us more than anybody. And I'm thinking, well, do we want the rules to change? Because nobody else can sign players, but we haven't got a coach like we have. Nick, what do you think about it?
I don't feel smart enough to even have a discussion on PSR because the rules and regulations just change every single day. So
it's a good point.
It's literally, honestly, I can't keep up with the rule changes. I can't keep up with the regulations. Every time you think you've got your head around it, you turn Sky Sports News on and someone else is getting fined for something. I'm just over it. I just can't.
Nicola you know what? Nicola actually highlights a great point, and we've said this before. It's not fan-friendly, is it?
Let's be honest. It's not easy to understand. You guys are laughing at me, but I'm putting it in a fan-friendly way.
I'm laughing because I agree.
Yeah.
It's relatable.
I've got this theory in my head of it might actually help us because not all I understand is the transfer windows aren't as busy as usual, and we have a great coach who can turn a profit on anybody. I've got this theory when you just said, actually, I have no idea, and I've just went, yeah, you're right, none of us have any idea. It's just ridiculous. Not fan-friendly. It's just not fan-friendly, and that's what's a killer.
And this is where I find a real big gap at the minute obviously we all love football. It's the reason why we do the podcast. Obviously we love our team, but this is where I really struggle when it comes to football, the business side of football. It's become so unattached from the real world. I get it's a business, but it's just if we don't really understand, and you've probably got managers like Eddie Howe and your Pep, well, not your Pep Guardiola, he does what he wants, but you know what I mean. Constantly looking,
same as Forest, spend what they want.
Sort of looking over their shoulders. Are they even aware sometimes that they're potentially breaking the rules? Who knows? So something needs to be done where it makes it easier to follow.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I am very interested, before I go back to Michael, I'm genuinely interested in what people think, because I would love to know that one person has listened to this. Well, hopefully more than one, but at least one person has listened to this and has said,
Ian.
actually, Kev's yeah, Ian's our only listener. Kev's changed my mind there. Actually, Eddie can get the best out of cheaper players, in players who haven't got the big value. And Man City can't just go, well, they can because they do what they want, but hopefully they get held accountable. But Man City and Man United can't just go and spend 400 million in one window and just have the best players anymore. I think it might actually help us. It's mental. Michael, what were you going to jump in before?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say, I think we're fine because we had the foresight to sign young Kuba Minte, and thankfully he was good enough to be sold for 35 million. Oh, I think it was 30. Manderson was 35. But either or, we sold them both for 65 combined. Next time, we're probably not going to be so lucky. And, if we'd had to sell Lewis Hall for 50 million or Tino Livramento just to make the profits on those players, I think we'd be sitting here right now and going, yeah, you know what? We hate it. We're really not fit for purpose. But the fact that Minte has been, I hate to say it because I think he'll grow up to be a great player, but he's been pretty average at Brighton. Anderson looks fantastic at Forest, unfortunately.
Very annoying.
But it's good to see him doing well. Yeah, it's very annoying, but they're two players that realistically would have been on the fringes for Newcastle this season. If we have to sell Alexander Isak in the summer for, let's say, 150 million just to comply with some stupid rule, then every Newcastle fan would be immediately messaged in Kev's DMs right now going, you don't know what you're talking about.
It would be frustrating, but the fact that Howe's coaching has allowed Isak to get over 20 goals over 2 seasons means you get a profit of like 60, 70, 80 million. I don't think Man U can do that with Højlund. Can they?
Well, no.
No, but
he
they're
wasn't
stuck.
70 million to begin with.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like they're stuck in terms of they signed these players at inflated prices, and now because of either poor, I don't know how good Højlund is. It could be just poor coaching. It could be the environment at Man United not working for him. He could be a 60, 70 million. We don't know really yet. He's still too young and he hasn't had the right environment, you could argue. But with Newcastle, even if we had to sell a Tino Livramento, as much as I never want to do that, you guarantee we're making a profit on him because Howe's so good. I can't think of any other club or any other manager in this league who is signing players for 50, 60 million like Isak and selling them for 150. I don't think that's happening. I don't think any other club can do that because we don't have our environment, we don't have our manager, we don't have the coach. I mean, Bournemouth is one I can think of off the top of my head. They have some very sellable assets right now to make a lot of money. I think we have a lot of sellable assets, as much as you don't want to think we're going to sell them. But if we had to, Michael's right, if we had to, we could sell a lot of players. If Man United had to sell somebody tomorrow for 80, 90, 100 million, the only one who's coming close is Fernandes. Nobody else is selling for that at Man U. So if they need to sell somebody to not get a deduction, they can't. We can, and that makes us so strong. Anyway, I've come up with this theory. I could be a madman, and I'm going to regret saying it because I do strongly dislike PSR. But I just think we are in such a good place, along with Bournemouth, by the way. Iriola, unbelievable manager, doing very
good.
Yeah, doing unbelievable at Bournemouth and making them sellable assets. Where if Bournemouth needed to make 100 million, we could make it with one player. That's how well he's done. Same with us. We could do that because we have a good manager. I actually think PSR, now it's been in for so long, might be starting to benefit the clubs who have good environments, starting to develop good infrastructures and have very good managers to get the best out of them players and invest time in them players to make them better. Not just throw them to one side when we have a bad season and bring in somebody for 90 million and sell them for 10. Them days are gone. So I think it might help us, but let us know what you think. I'm sure I'll get blasted, but hey ho, that's life. Anyway, I feel like this one's went really quick, so I apologise to everybody if it has, but I think we're on something like 34 minutes. Like I said at the start, my time is messed up, and these two are keeping us right. Is it time to go?
It's just cut to 34 minutes.
Time to go.
I mean, it could be time to go, but Nick didn't even get to finish our part one, bless her. Oh. I just spoke for 4 minutes, so quickly.
Oh, no, I didn't.
No, what were your other two? You've got a minute.
Screw you guys. What did I say? Long-term managerial stability. I said club culture and off-pitch standards. I have already gone into that a little bit. And then, not going to like it, but new stadium.
Oh, no.
I don't want a new stadium. I'm just saying it.
I do agree. It's just Michael made the point as well, didn't he? Where you've got to become everything you hate to have that infrastructure. But I can't imagine selling pints for 10 quid at a Newcastle Stadium ever.
No, me
I
either.
really fancy a prawn and cucumber sandwich and a 10 quid pint of Caffrey's right now.
Yeah, man.
Come on.
But yeah, it's interesting to actually see if we ever will become an elite club like rivaling Real Madrid, or do we just aim for what Arsenal are right now, or are we somewhere in between where maybe a Man City? Again, let us know. We do this to get your guys' feedback. Just don't be nasty to Nicola, otherwise we'll all come for you.
It's my job.
That.
Actually, it's your job, to be honest, Kev.
Yeah, I'm quite
nice.
mean to
All of
mean
yous.
to Nicola, to be fair. Yeah. I think we all pick on Nicola. Yeah,
Just have your own days.
Yeah,
It's
it is
okay.
what it is. Anyway, thank you very much again. It's been a wonderful episode. I think it's been a lot to talk about, lots of interesting discussions, actually. I'll make sure the next Wildcard Wednesday goes back to the old fun ways where we're just picking players we dislike. But until then, have a fantastic day, evening. Make sure you're all doing well. And remember, stay positive.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.